MIDDLEKAUFF! Baby, hey! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast or the live stream. However you are consuming, we're glad to have you. I'm Guy. That's John. If you're listening to this podcast, thanks. Share it with someone you love or with someone you hate. Either way, leave us a review, 5 stars, ask us a question. That's how you get in the mailbag. If you are watching the tube, great. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. The more subscribers, the better. And every single one is valued and counts. So thank you.
Yeah, the ones that give us some money on YouTube value a little more. I'm kidding. We don't want your charity. Well, we'll take it.
Bob.
But got a little sweaty today at practice. I noticed mid-practice. I'm like, God, I'm getting some butt sweat here. It was hot.
Was toasty. I agree. Credit card was swiping quick.
Hot relative to,
Tampa.
I would say that a lot of other camps are way hotter than whatever we're experiencing here.
Yeah.
I was going to say Texas, but I guess Jerry comes out to Oxnard. So that, even though it's probably not cool there, I bet it's 100 degrees.
The first practice that we attended, I guess there was one Sunday. We did not attend Sunday, but first practice we attended without the fans since, OTAs, which brings in some ways down some of the circus of it all. You don't have fans on both sides of the stands, fans lining the field, speakers on both sides. In that way, it kind of changes the dynamic of practice, but in another way, it actually makes it a little more focused and businesslike.
Yeah, it felt very serious. Felt like a real practice today. A little less like of a show, Felt like that would be something that you'd see like week 6. Well, probably wouldn't be as physical. Yeah, I guess they weren't really tackling or hitting. Felt pretty businesslike. Felt pretty serious out there, I thought. More than likely, the last practice we'll see all season.
Yeah, I mean, because maybe there's less music, no fans, you could hear coaches and players yelling more, but it might be that they were actually yelling more today.
Yeah, it felt like it was easier. I mean, the offensive and defensive line coach were kind of echoing with the music down a little bit and the no fans. And maybe it was just one of those play a game, day off, shitty practice yesterday. It's one of those where you're just kicking them in the ass. Let's push through the dog days.
Yeah,
and they already know they're getting on a plane today. So you just, in your mind, you're like, these planes, it's not like, whenever you get on Southwest, they don't feed you anything. This plane, I think they give everyone like steaks and cheeseburgers. It's like, oh, we just got to get to this plane. Milkshakes. You send the rookies to get you Chick-fil-A. I mean, you're just eating enough for like an army. You just like check out. It's like Friday when you're like in elementary school and you just know you're almost there. You're not listening the second half of the day.
You're saying that's what happened on Sunday, and so they had to get them back in line today?
I do just wonder after a game, and then you get a day off, and you kind of know you're going to a joint practice, how just it'd be easy to lose a little focus, which I think that's why you pay in this sport coaches so much money, because even your most serious teams can get, venture far away from the lane of super discipline, super focus, just giving it all you got 24/7, 365, right?
Yeah. But I do think there probably adds a little bit of urgency when you're about to go do a joint practice. You're about to let somebody else see whether or not you guys are a button-down operation. You're about to let another, media. There's going to be this whole other group of people that haven't seen you before. Maybe I don't know if there's more pride necessarily, but there is a pride on the line when you practice against another team, in this case, the Vikings, that you probably do feel like you don't want them to look more ready for the season than you look.
Yeah, but you'll deal with that once you get there, right?
Well, I'm just saying, but you got to make sure that you get on the plane ready to practice against somebody else. It's not a game, but these practices are more important to them than the game they're going to play on Saturday night.
Well, yeah, I mean, Trey Lance not playing. I mean, we thought this game, besides Trey Lance, right, the Niners were rolling out all their backups. This game could be really bad. We might as well start like in the second quarter. I was thinking about part of last week was like if Trey Lance does not play, takes a lot of juice out of the game.
Yeah. You want to start the stream when the second quarter begins on Saturday. We're going to stream Saturday night, everybody. By the way, last Friday's stream,
when the game starts.
10,000 people watched last Friday's stream. So if you missed it,
Or just
join
the
the party.
wait till after. Maybe it's just a little shorter and less going on. I think there's.
I don't know.
For not much going on.
I think there's something to be said for second quarter while there's still a game going on a Saturday night. Could be a good time. I don't know. We haven't decided that yet.
More people started watching when the game actually ended.
More people did, but that game was, maybe people just want to watch Brock Purdy and Kellen Mond face off. Although Mond might be out of the game by the time Purdy.
Yeah, I mean, my theory is I think what makes football so unique is there's only so many of them. And I even had the feel when I was watching the Packer game, even though I don't even like preseason, you just don't get to watch. You only get so many bites of the apple in this sport, right?
Yeah. But it's going to be the deep bench. Even though they've cut some guys. 2 Fresno State guys got cut on Monday. Disrespectful, frankly.
Bullshit.
On the stream, EK Beasy asked, ham pod flying out to Minneapolis for the joint practice. Well, kind of. We decided to pool our money and send John. So John will be going to the preseason game on Saturday. Tough break for me, John, but I guess I'll have to stay back on this one and you'll go and chart every.
It'd be very similar to our Raider Radio days when we both got paid the same. Yet I worked every Sunday for 20 weeks, and Haberman just got to sit at home.
I was working at home. I was charting. You were taking calls. You got to be the voice of the nation, John. The voice of the nation.
It's funny, but also, at the time, I don't even think I quite realized what a good.
I was doing A's post game. That's what I was getting paid to do.
No, not early, not by the second, third year.
Yeah,
you got
by the third. Oh, by the third year. Okay.
By the second year too, you did about 20 games.
There were some Saturday. Well, no, there weren't any Saturdays.
Now, granted, in fairness, they originally asked, like, what do you want out of, when you work for a company, like, what do you want out of this? And you're just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. You're like, I want to be part of an NFL broadcast. And you realize you're not even really part of it. And once it ends, you realize, like, it's not fucking doing Belichick and Brady here. Who even gives a shit? And
the team president, it turns out.
Yeah, in a bad way. It led to us getting fired. But now we're here.
Now we are here. What's the name of the Rascal Flatts? They do a song like that.
God bless the broken road.
Yeah, God bless the broken road. That's right. There you go. Rascal Flatts, baby. We are sponsored by our wonderful friends at Tito's. As predicted, we discussed this during the stream live on Friday night. As predicted by John, Tito's photos were going to be hammering our inboxes, our DMs, and boy, did our DMs fill up with you people sending us photos of Tito's. You enjoying your Tito's on a game night. Tito's handmade vodka. That is number one, baby. I love the ginger beer, but you
feels like a lot of people do. There's a lot of people tweeting at us and Instagramming us.
I think I may have invented a drink.
I always thought you kept talking about ginger beer, and we figured it out. It's not actually beer, but it was one of those things that I've never drank it. And clearly, I like Moscow Mules, but I never bought it. But I mean, obviously, a lot of people do. I thought you were kind of crazy out on an island, but I actually think you're probably a little more, more people are doing it than I even remotely realized. And obviously, you get it at Trader Joe's, don't you?
Yeah,
which is a very, very popular spot.
It's just that
I never go to.
Now you would like it. I just prepared salads anyway. Different ad, but. They sponsor
non-paid.
They actually do sponsor a podcast. The Stuart Mandel Bruce Feldman podcast is sponsored by Trader Joe's. But the great thing about the ginger beer that it's so much. I'm pretty sure they sell Tito's at TJ's, by the way. The prices are really good. But anyway, sorry. Sidebar.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Tito's wherever you shop. I mean, I guess I don't know why I'm loyal to this. Safeway price points. Tito's fantastic. It's just you can't beat the quality, which it's elite, number one vodka in America, and two, the price point relative to its competition, unbeatable. I can't rave about it enough. Obviously, you guys listening understand because that's all most people drink. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, you go out and drink. That's what people are ordering. Tito's soda, Tito's grapefruit, whatever they're drinking, and vodka's involved. Tito's is the call.
Yeah, baby. Over 20 years ago, Tito Beverage. That is the man's given birth name. Tito Beverage decided to start making vodka. And now he's got a vodka that is simple, smooth, easy to sip, great to mix. You can make whatever mixed drink you want. Make sure that you're doing it with Tito's. Distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly. It is the best.
Kyle might have one on the flight there today.
Yeah. Tito's and Red Bull Cranberry. Is that what it is?
Again, I've shopped 10 million times and walked by the Red Bull section, never seen a flavored Red Bull. I don't even know where you would stumble upon that, but clearly he has.
Austin on the stream says Tito's ads don't hit the same on Monday as they do on Friday.
Agree, unless you want to start drinking on Monday.
Understandable.
Half of my Instagram following, they go on vacation every week, so.
Where do you want to start today? A couple different places we could start.
Well, I saw someone bring it up in the chat, and I was telling you before the show that I think the unique part about the sport of football, unlike baseball where major injuries just stand out and are jarring to watch a guy get carted off a field, basketball, it's absolutely incredible. More guys don't destroy their body limbs all the time, and major injuries are actually pretty much still an outlier. When we grew up, double days, hell, at Davis High School, we had 3 straight weeks of double days. When I went to Fresno State, we had a month of double days. Obviously, the NFL historically had double days forever. Guys would come into camp. And I would imagine then if we could go to like 1991, if Roto World would have existed, I'm sure there were broken legs, broken hands, broken arms in camp because those injuries happen in games, right? Once games start, guys break stuff. Well, you don't see that many breaks. And one of the 49ers, a guy that was injured last year, Jeff Wilson Jr., literally got hurt sitting on a chair. Like the thing with football, you can get hurt in practice. You can get hurt in preseason games. You can get hurt because of what is required to get ready for the sport training, because the training typically requires a lot of weights, right? You're putting weights on your body that you probably don't do in baseball or basketball. It's much lighter, high repetition. There's just no avoiding it. And Kyle Shanahan is not running the Junction Boys out there. And they have a ton of starters now, not knock on wood, not major injuries, not this guy's out on IR, probably not going to see him again. This guy's ruptured an Achilles, but just your typical hammy pulls, growing strains. Who knows? Danny Gray's got about 6 different little nicks and knacks, and Elijah Mitchell is out till the regular season. Like, they have several starters that it doesn't seem like too serious, but they got hurt. Hell, Eric Armstead, who has been very durable for the 49ers, I think got hurt the first day of practice, not pads, the first day of practice. I guess ultimately my point is, and the NFL's clearly been very attempted to be very progressive with the concussion thing, right? They've gone above and beyond with these helmet things, even though I guess Andre Dillard and Mulata, the Aussie guy, both got concussions on the same day in practice. So it even shows you there's just no avoiding in the sport of football injuries. I think you can mitigate them, like major injuries, attempt to, but I don't think you can ever stop them. So I'm not blaming anybody. I feel all the players like Jimmy Ward, like these guys are in elite shape. Definitely both Wards, and they're both, who knows? Jimmy Ward might miss the rest of the month. Might have got hurt. He didn't play in the game. Did he get hurt yesterday in a borderline walkthrough practice? I heard Greg Papa driving back from practice say, last night they had like it was like a team dinner / season ticket holder, one of those cheesy things that, a lot of teams do. And Jimmy Ward was supposed to be on stage, but he was getting an MRI.
Treatment? Oh, okay.
So I think it's fair to say that happened yesterday in practice.
Landon says, is it time to worry about the injuries in the secondary? I wouldn't use the word worry. I do think you're very aware as we've gone out to practice from the beginning of the open practices. And when practice first started, you looked out and you saw Jimmy Ward, Charvarius Ward. Eventually, actually, I guess you didn't see it right away, but then Emmanuel Mosley showed up. When they had that group, and we haven't seen Armstead out there, but the front 7 plus those corners, plus the safeties. It was clear Hufanga has taken position as the other starting safety next to Ward, and Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley are absolutely solidified at corners. Well, I have a prediction, John. This week, they're going to go practice with the Vikings, and somebody on the Niners defense is going to start a fight. And the reason they're going to start a fight is one of the things that's going to make them a really good defense is that they fly to the ball and they tackle, but you don't really get to do much of that in these practices. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are not going up against the Niners' best corners. They're not practicing this week. And I think the Niners, somebody on that defense is going to get tired of the fact that these practices, A, are not set up for them to succeed, and B, they do not have their best players out there. Because it's just, you notice the difference when you look out and name whoever is out there, Diamador Lenore,
Ambry Thomas,
Leon O'Neal, the rookie from A&M. When you look out there, and it's not those guys that for a few weeks we've been saying are a big part of why this defense can be a lot better than last year and maybe even as good or better than the 2019 defense. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe Fred's going to hit somebody. Maybe Hufanga is going to hit somebody. Maybe Kinlaw is just going to start. I don't know. But this could be a bumpy week for them because they're secondary. And again, it feels like Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley are just precaution, and they'll be back by the time the season rolls along. The Jimmy Ward one sounds like it's a little more, but you just don't until you see when somebody's dealing with a hamstring. My default is always they're back when I see them back on the field. I don't assume when you say it's a week on a hamstring that just in a week that person's walking back through the door.
Yeah, especially when it comes to speed guys. And to me, that's wide receivers and corners.
Leon O'Neal got cut. Who's wearing 14 in practice? Who was wearing 14 today?
Well, I think they moved. He got cut, I thought, last week. Again, I only know that. I don't even know who that player is.
14 was out there today. Oh, Ken Crawley. My bad.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean,
Ken Crawley, I guess.
It just, to me, it just shows you, like, I don't have any expectations for these guys. I don't need to see anything. But, and they're lucky, the first couple weeks. I guess even by the second week, like, the Bears are a joke. The Bears suck. And their offensive line is, the Niners should fucking destroy them. But even the second week, Geno Smith, like, we can make fun of him, and he deserves to be made fun of if he has a terrible year. But, like, early on in the season, who's to say you can't just throw a couple bombs if those guys are dinged up and you got backups in there against DK and Tyler Lockett? Well, that was they're just making you a little nervous. Like, those two guys. Now, not having Russell there is a big deal. But I know this. If Ward, and Mosley, let's say 2 or 3 of them are just battling injuries out, like, you do not sleep well all week just knowing that Lockett and DK are out there flying around, right?
I mean, that's at the highest level with those two. Like, you and I agree the Bears are not very good. I watched some of their preseason game. Darnell Mooney, Tajay Sharp, they actually, when you look at their group of guys, both of them made spectacular catches. They don't have a complete schmucks playing wide receiver week 1.
Mooney's good. They can't block.
Sharp's been a good player before.
He's going to get killed.
Yeah, again, I'm not saying they're great. It just they are just going to have to make some plays in the secondary this year. It's just going to be part of the deal, and you hope that you just hope that in week 3 we look back and all of that's a distant memory.
But here's the thing: by the time you get to week 2, I think Seattle's probably going to suck. But they got 2 receivers. Week 3, you got Denver and Russell Wilson, who Albert Breer said it's basically Russell Wilson Inc. on offense. I'm like, is that a good thing, or does he just gets to?
I think they're going to finish 4th in the AFC West.
But what Russell Wilson Inc. means is he's going to throw the ball a lot, and I think week 4 is the Rams. So I mean, you got right away. You're going to face passing attacks or teams. We'll see what Seattle actually becomes, but I mean, they just gave a wide receiver $60 million, and I would imagine if you were at practice. I can't imagine they have 3 or 4 better players on their team than Tyler Lockett, right? So, I mean, their best 2 players, honestly, might be their 2 wide receivers. Honestly, it has to be. Who else would even be in the conversation on Seattle? Those 2
Did
guys.
you say J.J. Arcega-Whiteside?
I would put him down the list, but Jamal, he wouldn't be up there. DK has to be the best player in Seattle, right? With Russell gone?
Yeah.
And
not that he would have been better, but Bobby Wagner's gone.
I think their best 2 players are those 2 guys.
I'm just doing a quick check to make sure enough. I mean, he's terrifying. He's terrifying. I'm just doing a quick roster check.
But ultimately, what they represent, and I think the league represents now, is it's a passing league. And I think you saw it last year. Now, they're much better equipped to handle it this year because they have more bodies, but every team in the league wants to throw bombs. Every single one. And the schedule that they have, think about that. Mahomes, Andy, they dream about throwing. Denver is going to be a throwing offense. I mean, the Chargers, they're a passing team. Obviously, the Raiders, they'll mix it up, but I would say with their personnel, Waller, Renfro, and Devontae, like that is just a tough matchup, right? I mean, that's three legitimate, a slot receiver, one of the best outside wide receiver, one of them, and a tight end that's really kind of like this hybrid. And you could say, well, Fred, like that's, I mean, that's a Jimmy Ward linebacker combination type guy you cover him with, right? You got Fred below him and Jimmy above him, probably. So, and we all love Hufanga, and everyone's rooting for him. And that hit he had on Friday night was so badass. But time will tell about just him in space, because it is a space game now. I don't want to say the NFL is the Big 12, but it's definitely not what the 1998 Big 10 was. It's much more of a passing league. And, the Niners had the worst possible case, right? They had a bunch of injuries, and they had to sign this guy up the scrap heap, and it fucked them. You just could throw at him nonstop. That's not going to be the case this year, but the case is that, like, you still need to defend the pass, and it's always going to be, unless you have, we'll see. I mean, people were very high on Ward, and he should be fine. But I also think you're anointing him like, I don't think he's ever been to a Pro Bowl. He's a good player, but it's good players still get beat. And I talked to a buddy on the Chiefs. They're like, they loved him. They still do. They're like, if he had great hands, he doesn't have great hands, kind of a Namdi style. Now he's a smoother athlete, but like, that's why he puts his hands on a lot of balls and doesn't catch it. That's where like JC Jackson is basically a wide receiver too. Like he can pick the ball. And listen, at corner, I don't need you to pick it as long as you're touching it. I mean, the Niners, their guys last year were like looking the other way. So, I mean, PBUs, if they just get a group that PBUs half the times that they didn't last year, that's a huge step forward. And let's face it, the strength of their team is the 7 guys up front. They just need the back, wouldn't you say, to be healthy one and just consistently solid. They're not looking for Deion Sanders here. I heard Pop the other day say that he thought this group could be like the 94 Niners. I'm like, Greg, I fucking love you, but I mean, come on, take off the rose, the red glasses. They had Deion Sanders, who's the greatest hover corner in the history of the league. Tim McDonald and Merton Hanks, like Google their resumes. Both those guys were going to Pro Bowls. And I'm pretty sure Eric Davis was like a high-end starter for a period of time in his career. Like that was a high-end secondary with one of the greatest players, not just at his position, in the history of the league, Deion in his prime. So like that's the 49ers don't need to be that, because their front 7 should be the best top 2 or 3 in the league as a front 7. Like the Jim Harbaugh Niners, their DBs were just solid. Their front 7 did all the shit.
But I do think Charvarius Ward has a chance to kind of even elevate his perception going from a team that's going to be viewed this year as, even though it's Kyle Shanahan's team, I think a lot of people are ready for them to be defense first versus playing for the Chiefs where, you don't get quite the credit maybe because that offense is A, what gets you a lot of credit, and B, just puts you in games where you are playing a lot of defense because teams are throwing against you. So
yeah, you're always up, so they're just throwing bombs. Yeah, it's different.
And this pass rush and the pass rush, like you said, I mean, is going to create opportunities for these guys to pick off passes, and the ball will be in the air if the Niners have the lead.
I'm not trying to be critical on Ward, but I think Ward can just be like, what if he's just a really good player? Like, there's a difference between really, really good player and some lock like Pro Bowler.
Yeah, you're right, but I think if he's on the field, the chances of him more than earning his money, I think, are really high. Because we've seen what they've been.
But you can earn your money and not be like a top 2 or 3 corner in the league.
Well, like we've seen what they've been. We saw what they did last year with less than great cornerback play. With, honestly, were liabilities in the pass game at times.
Disaster.
So, to me, it's not going to take much for it to look like a high-level, championship-level defense. But they just got to be on the field. Think about it. If we went back to the Niners football reference page, under Kyle Shanahan, they have high highs and low lows. And the low lows have been injury-plagued seasons. That's what's made them bad. When they have injuries, they are bad. That's what's happened with them. Right now, one of them was a Jimmy injury season, and a quarterback injury season is what it is. But
which derails most teams.
But that's the only thing that can stop this defense from being fantastic this year. Like, oh, maybe they're all together and they're not as good as we thought. Like, to me, if they're all together and they're not as good as we thought, I think they're still a top 10 defense with the potential of being a top
I agree.
3 right? So their floor is really high as long as they're healthy.
I agree.
But they got to be, I mean, you'd like to have them all out there together. I guess the good news is you have more good players this year on defense, so you can maybe handle. And they've got veteran safeties like Tarvarius Moore and George Odom. Like, these are not guys that, if they have to play, create major problems.
Odom played a lot on the Colts, who have been one of the more consistent defenses in the league the last several years. And obviously Moore, who got injured, has been a guy that played a lot for Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. Like, he's a legitimate NFL player. But I do wonder.
More injuries as linebacker.
Yeah, see, I think they do such a good job of cultivating guys. And the other thing, here's the difference between DBs and linebackers. As the league becomes more pass heavy, a linebacker's always coming off the field and more DBs are coming on the field. So it's like, I actually think you can, just because it's a numbers game. If, let's say, Greenlaw has a major injury like last year and is gone, well, then you just bump up a guy, but you're only have 2 linebackers on the field so much, it's only just 51 and 54 the whole time. Where at corner, it's like it snowballs fast because you have 3 or 4 of them on the field a lot of these games. So it's just kind of a numbers thing. It happens to you fast. And the one thing that's pretty clear at practice with their linebackers, they have a lot of athletic linebackers. And maybe that's just the type guys coming into the league. But at corner, most corners, I bet if you went, a guy like Jalen Ramsey would really stand out. But if you just went team to team, when they're all just standing there, wouldn't you say most DBs, similar kind of body types? I mean, some safety's a little bigger.
Yeah,
but just,
yeah.
5'11" to 6'1", all kind of thinner, linear. You've never seen a chubby DB. They all kind of look the same, but they clearly don't all play the same. But the majority of the body types are all within the same vicinity. Like Mosley, I guess even Ward, I don't think he's that tall. I haven't seen him in a while now. But like Mosley, Jason Verrett is actually on the smaller side, but he's such an elite athlete. In theory, I don't know. He's had 7 million ACLs since and Achilles. Every time I keep hearing about, when Jason Verrett, it's like, listen, it's one thing, like if you pop a tire and then you pop another tire and you pop another, you can always get a new tire. Like, how many times can you tear Achilles and tear ACLs and just like keep the same? Well, he's just still a 4.33 guy. It's like, you're eventually going to run, the law of diminishing returns. Like, I hit my max, my 4th ACL, and they clearly love the guy. That is a player that they have a super, super soft spot for. Clearly, the human, obviously the
when
talent.
He's been on the field, he's been really good for them, right? At times, he's been their best corner.
But major injury after major injury.
Yeah. But they don't have a team that's relying on him this year necessarily, right? They better not.
No, they clearly don't.
Like this roster is one of a team that's had issues at corner before and, made an effort. You just don't want to, Kyle Shanahan said it, like, you want to start fast. You just don't want to start behind the 8 ball with that group. But part of that is, like, we'll get to Trey Lance, but this kind of leads us to what you've been saying, which is the pass rush. And you and I have talked about this before. Like, how important is it to spend money on corners? You've said it, you'd rather spend that money on guys that get to the quarterback because they will make your corners better, unless you're getting Deion Sanders, which not many, Patrick Surtain, like, you're not getting that guy by and large. So,
if Ward is just a fringe Pro Bowler for them for a couple years, they didn't spend that much money, right?
Right.
It's not like he cost $75 million guaranteed. I think it was 30. Yeah. So you will gladly take high level starting corner play at $30 million guaranteed over 3 years, basically, right? I think sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, like, as long as he's solid for the guaranteed money, like, a lot of really, really good players, like, guaranteed money starts like 60, 70, right? And now pass rushers, offensive linemen are super fucking high.
I think he's guaranteed to be solid at floor.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going, like the Namdi thing.
I think most players you sign, right, like in this like given what the salary cap is, I would say in like that $20 to $35 million guaranteed number. If you just feel really good about the starter, I think you feel great. Like the Broncos, they signed DJ Jones for 20 guaranteed. Well, DJ Jones is their starting D tackle for a couple years. They won't even flinch, right? If you sign like J.C. Jackson, remember, costs a lot more than Travarius.
Yeah.
So there's a little more pressure on like, is this guy going to be a Pro
And
Bowler?
also isn't Dion.
And also, but if he's,
but who is? Sorry, that's not fair.
But you would say about JC, when I give from 30 to 45, I think he got 45 guaranteed. Like that extra like $15-20 million, it goes like, we're not just looking, like we're looking to maintain, sustain, like, is this guy one of the best corners in the AFC?
Yeah.
So the price point, what you pay for a guy kind of dictates how you look at him. Like the part of when we signed Nnamdi in Philly, it was like, this guy's got to be a Pro Bowler. And then when he's not, you just start freaking out. You can't even think straight when the guy, like Trent Williams, you gave Trent Williams that much money. Luckily, he's just maintained being one of the best players in the league. But if he's just a Pro Bowler, you feel fine about it. But there's no like, it's just, he's slipping. Whoever, I mean, that happens. We see it in football. You're just like, oh, shit.
Or a guy was at his best in somebody else's scheme playing for the right coach, but it's really specific, right?
Like, I think Von Miller's a good example. The Bills gave him, I think, $50 million guaranteed. And I think practice we went to on like last week, he was on with McAfee. And he's like, they've told me, and he's like, I take this seriously. Like, I'm kind of the missing piece here. I do think when you give a guy that much money, the expectation's pretty high. It just adds to it.
Especially at that age.
It's risky.
If you guys had good just thinking about it, we'll get to Trey Lance. I want to transition from the corner conversation to Bosa. I thought Deebo looked pretty good today. Like it felt to me like Deebo took it up a little bit of a notch today. Deebo Samuel. He's only as good as the accuracy of the passes thrown his way, but to me, he just looked like he had turned it up a little bit. Even though, as you identified, his 1 mile an hour like jog that's walk speed, but jog. It looks like a jog, but it moves like a walk. Back to the huddle. I thought he looked pretty good today. I thought it looked like Deebo that was all right. We're 1 week closer to the season. Deebo Samuel.
When you're an All-Pro, a Pro Bowler, an All-Star, whatever, just an elite guy in a sport, and you kind of hot dog it. Barry Bonds used to do this. It's like, God, that looks cool. You can make it when you see like an UDFA doing it. You're like, oh, this guy's getting cut. Deebo he had a one-handed catch today that on a hard throw by Lance.
Behind his body. It was off his back shoulder on a cross.
One hand as he's going toward the sideline, which, listen, I mean, high-level players make one-handed catches. I remember Diggs did last week in practice. I don't think the average person, and I include myself, we kind of become numb to like how hard that catch is. Like if you just went out right now with a buddy and just even through kind of lobbers with a real football and just try to catch things one-hander, I'm not even talking hard, just kind of lob, how difficult it would be. And I know the gloves are a little stickier. I don't give a shit. Stickum isn't, the ball's not, he could have put Stickum all over his hand. You still have to grab.
Especially the velocity that Trey Lance threw the pass.
Oh my God. I thought that was his best catch of camp.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, he was going one way and had to turn his body back the other way, back shoulder, one-handed catch on a line drive. He had a nice sideline catch on a ball that Trey Lance threw earlier in team drill that had some nice touch. We did the classic swing it out to Deebo, convoy, and Deebo runs behind everybody. I just thought he took it up a notch. And for me, it was good to see because we've been keeping a close eye on this. The balls that Trey Lance threw his way were on target, so maybe they're getting a little bit of a better rapport going. But
well, there were a bunch of tweets yesterday about the installing the Deebo in the backfield package, and I think the 49ers didn't want those getting out, even though when you think about it, it's like, yeah, no one thinks Deebo can be in the back. Like we all saw it, guys. We know the package is. Yeah, Kyle just burned that part of the play. No, we're good now. Like, come on, guys. We don't have nuclear codes here. Like, we understand that he can be a running back, and you're just getting some reps at it. No one thinks you threw those plays away.
But it is going to be a little different this year, right? When you add, there is another person that can run in the backfield with Trey Lance.
Oh, you're saying some like added element to the play.
Well, you made the point. Yeah, just like of everything.
Could they do speed option, the two of them?
Yeah, where Deebo then throws the football. I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't really do that in a speed option, but
could you see
Deebo direct snap, speed option to Trey?
What about this pistol? Trey, Deebo right next to him, speed option, flips it to Deebo, Ayuk coming around, hands it to Ayuk with the run pass option there for Ayuk. I don't know if he can throw it, but and then with Kittle going down the backside.
Yep.
How about that? Kyle,
yep.
Boom. Touchdown.
So I think there's a lot, right? There's just a lot of things that they've already done that are difficult with Deebo to defend that maybe you can do a little bit more. You can do a little bit more with. So Nick Bosa.
I expect to see Deebo in the backfield throughout the season.
Hot take. John, according to sources, John MIDDLEKAUFF reports, Nick Bosa, who gets down to the line of scrimmage like a panther. I mean, he gets so freaking low. It's really cool to watch. He had one play today that made everybody on the sideline, if the crowd had been there, ooh and ah. Because did Colton McKivitz touch him on that ball, or was the only on that play, or was it just that Nick swiped his hands and that was the only time that Colton McKivitz came in contact with Nick Bosa on that play?
If there was physical touch, it lasted for less than a quarter of a second. And Nick was all air around, the hula hoop drill that a lot of, D-line coaches love it. They get their guys. Yeah. It's definitely like a high school drill, and even college and the pros, maybe a little less. But it makes sense. You want to run the hula hoop because you can bend like around the tackle. Bosa went around that corner so fucking fast, it looked like he was shot out of a rocket. If he was like a jaguar or a leopard or whatever you're saying, he also had rocket packs on his ass because if they're playing Geno Smith or someone that's not like Peyton Manning or Brady, they would get rid of it super fast. He would be on that guy and sack him so fast, it would be like a highlight play of the NFL.
I think he might kill him. I think he might sack Manning or Brady. He was there so quick.
My point is that they might just be able to just either throw it away or they do that little Manning would do the ground
Manning would hit the ground. That's right. Manning would hit the ground. I asked Cam, I had missed this previously because you and I were talking about him lining up on the left side. Cam Inman, who covers the team, I was standing on the sideline talking to him, and I started talking about it. He said, well, Bosa says he likes one thing that you get when you line up on the left, the defense is left. When you line up around in front of the right tackle, you get to see the ball as you come around the edge. So even though, think about how fast you have to be willing to trade the fact that the quarterback can't see you when you're lined up to the right of the formation over the left tackle, to move to the other side where he can see you coming, but it doesn't matter that he can see you coming. You're that fast. You'd rather be on that side of him so you can see the ball. In other words, Nick Bosa is so quick that he doesn't care about the element of surprise. I just want to know what you're doing with the ball. There was one play today where he would have had another sack, except he came crashing down the line of scrimmage and Trey Lance came out the other side where Bosa had been, which I don't think defenses are going to play them that way. I think defenses are, as defenses have been, this isn't new, assign that defensive end to Trey Lance on the whatever the bootleg side of the play is. He came crashing down the line of scrimmage. If he had just had the quarterback, it would have been, the drill would have stopped. Even in a non-contact drill, Trey couldn't have pitched the ball. And it happens a lot. It's happened several times where Trey is throwing the ball, whoever the quarterback is throwing the ball with both Bosa kind of bellied up to them with his arms back because
his pass rush reps to sack ratio is extremely high. I'm not saying it's 1-to-1, but it feels closer to 1-to-1 than it does 1 to like 0.5. Like it is. Now, like you said, he's going against the right tackle, who is often not even, McGlinchey's, I don't think he's hurt. He just barely practices. He gets like I don't even know what, he's on a pretty special. They're just trying to get him to the season. I get it. He's coming back from pretty major injury, but he kills backups. The other thing is, and listen, I know Cam said that, I do think you're at such a huge advantage in this league. It's why, the Khalil Mack, it's why a lot of the best pass rushers, I think over the last several years have been, the guy on the right side is usually so much worse than a lot of teams starting left tackles. And some teams don't even have good starting left tackles, but they're the overwhelming majority of teams, their right tackle. Like if you gave the GM and the coach an option, like, would you like to upgrade this guy? Like they would immediately say yes. And in fairness, this is hard to find replacements. That's why we often talk about McGlinchey. Like they just might end up signing him to like a 2-year, $30 million deal, giving him like 15 guarantee. Who knows? I don't even know what like a team friendly deal is, but he kind of feels like he's got that written all over him if he's just solid this year. And I was looking at Khalil Mack, his wiki page, because I wanted to see the year that he won the first team All-Pro. And when he won the Defensive Player of the year that the Raiders and Jack Del Rio and Derek Carr, I mean, they had an excellent year. And they made the playoffs. That was the year Derek's ankle got shattered, and they threw him in the front seat. We talked about that last week. Is that Khalil was much rawer than Nick. Like, he needed to kind of figure out some things. But that year that he figured it out, it was like, oh, my God. This guy, the power, the speed, the movement, it's just like, this guy's the total package. Like, he became a star in 16. And Bosa, I don't want to say he didn't become a star last year. He was really, really good. But I think this season is when it's going to be like, is this guy the best player in the league? Like, maybe there's still Aaron Donald or Myles Garrett, but like, there are going to be moments where you're like, yeah, if you told me that right now this guy's the best player in the league, like that year with Khalil Mack, like this guy pound for pound feels like the best player in the league. Got All-Pro at multiple positions. Kind of what the vibe you feel with Nick. Like, if this guy plays in 16 or 17 games, I do not see how he doesn't get 20 sacks. Because there are going to be some games, because remember that Khalil year? He had a couple games where like 3 sacks. And he had the one game with 5 sacks. Like, Nick could have a game where he gets like 4
5 sacks and a half. Was that the Bears game?
Might have been 4.5. It was the Broncos. Remember, Derek? They couldn't move the ball, and he just single-handedly won him the game. And it feels like Bosa could have some moments like that. A little less. I think part of what made Khalil so jaw-dropping was he was like picking up guys and throwing them. It felt like, is this like JV versus varsity? I don't know. Joey's probably even a little more powerful like that, where Nick is just Von Miller in his prime, where it's like, I can't even touch him. Like, what am I supposed to do? And that's kind of what he feels like coming around the edge. Like, there are going to be plays. He'll have sacks this year where I bet the offensive lineman will come to the sideline and be like, I swear to God, like, I dropped back. I did everything I was coached to do. And I look, and he's already by me. And I tried to hold him. I couldn't even grab him. It looks like he shot out of a rocket.
You know what's interesting looking at it, the Khalil Mack comp, is that Mack, I didn't realize this till I just looked. Mack had 11 sacks his DPOY year, which feels like it's a kind of a low number for a pass.
I would have guessed 16.
The year before he had 15, right? Do you have the numbers in front of you? I closed out the window, but I think the year before he had 15. And I think sometimes you almost win the award in part the year before you win an award by having off-season build-up. And Bosa last year
Mack had a better statistical season his second year than he did his third. Way more TFLs, 4 more sacks.
So, I mean, I think he probably came into momentum in 16. If we went back and found the preseason Defensive Player of the Year odds for 16, I'd be interested to see where he was coming into that year. Right now, Bosa is 5th behind Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Aaron Donald, Micah Parsons, just ahead of Joey Bosa. And, I think part of that is going to be that he had such an incredible year last year. Nick Bosa, for all the credit Khalil Mack rightfully gets for his run-stopping ability, right? You could argue it's the best thing Khalil does is that he's a fantastic run stuffer while being a pass rusher. Bosa was 21 TFLs last year, led the NFL in tackles for loss. Now, 15 and a half of those were sacks. And a lot of his stuff, remember, I think he benefits from any pass rusher does, the way this team plays. If you've got the lead, Nick Bosa, most of his sacks come in the second half. I remember crunching the numbers last year because the Niners played with leads. So it feels like it's set up, actually, coming off of the year he had last year to be. Now, it's tough. I mean, to have 15 and a half sacks and not even be – he was not an all-pro, was he?
Who?
Oh, Nick. Was Nick an all-pro last year?
I think he was.
Was he? Okay.
Team, yeah.
It's just tough at that position, but
I'm almost 100% sure he was second team.
Yeah, I mean, you would think. I don't know why I had it in my head that maybe he got snubbed.
I mean, no, he was just a Pro Bowler. He
So
was
it was-
not an All-Pro.
So it was TJ. It was first teamers were what? TJ Watt and Myles Garrett.
I would think that would be the case. And I don't know who who would have been.
Crosby.
Yeah, honestly, I think Crosby got it.
And one other. Who would it have been? Micah wouldn't have been Mike. Oh, Chase Young, maybe?
No, he got hurt.
Darius Leonard.
So they had Myles Garrett. I got Pro Football.
You got somebody else's All-Pro team, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
We want the AP All-Pro team.
Is that the one you want?
Well, that is the All-Pro team.
Yeah, I mean, T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, and then Robert Quinn of the Bears and Max Crosby.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I would be stunned if he, provided health, is not on that list this year. And I think you're right. It's hard to tell that he's better, right? He just is so fully formed, as people like to say already. Like, you never watch Nick Bosa and think, well, here's 7 things he could do better. But sure feels like they're all talking about him like he's better. And you could just make the case he's 24 years old. He'll turn 25 in October. Like, we are in his athletic, his most superior prime, which we'll see how long it lasts. He's in great shape, so maybe he's got 4 years of it. But
I just clicked on Tom Brady. Tom Brady has more Super Bowl MVPs than he does first-team All-Pros.
Wow.
He only has 3 first-team All-Pros.
What does that say?
Well, he played in an era where I bet Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning got a lot of first-team All-Pros.
It's a very statistical recognition, and there's great quarterbacks too. He's played.
I would imagine if Tom has 3 first-team All-Pros in his career, how many would you guess Aaron has? Actually, harder than you think to get him.
You say he's got 3 first-team All-Pros.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. How many MVPs does Aaron have? 3.
Aaron has 4.
4. So he's got at least 4 first-team All-Pros.
He's got 4.
Wow.
It's just hard. Maybe it's just really hard to get.
Well, there's only one first-team All-Pro quarterback, right?
Yeah.
They don't give you 2.
I would imagine Tom, Peyton, and Aaron accounted probably for 13 or 14 over the last 20 years. Wouldn't you guess? I bet Peyton's the most.
I was thinking about it watching the Yankees the other day. Like, the MVP in baseball is an American League and a National League award. There's 2 MVPs every year, right?
Well, think about this. Yeah, that's a good point. Peyton Manning has 7. So Tom and Aaron combined have as many first-team All-Pro as Peyton does.
Voting in before the postseason on that thing?
Probably, do you think if you could, oh yeah, I think it's a regular season deal. If you could vote, if the voting happened after the Super Bowl, would Tom have 10?
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd have a lot more.
You want to talk about Trey Lance?
Hell yeah.
He did. I wrote a note today. Has anybody? We haven't seen a lot of Trey Lance yet. But today he made a throw in practice that was, I think, the most Mahomes throw that I've seen him make, which was maybe it was part of the play where he turns and not pitches the ball backwards, but as he is on the perimeter, already looks like he's going to run, he turns and throws the ball, throws a spiral. And I don't think it was parallel. I think it was backwards. Maybe it was parallel. And maybe it was part of what he's been instructed to do, but it looked like he was freelancing to me.
It was sweet.
It was. Would you agree it was one of the? Well, I mean, can you go through the throws that you've seen him make in your head? It was pretty unique.
But like you said, it's unique. I mean, I think the more you play when you're a great athlete, like, you get to just kind of make some cool shit happen. It's why, like, if you get to watch a guy play college football for a couple of years and he's a big time athlete, you get to see some spectacular plays, right? If he becomes like a NFL type player, we just haven't seen him play that much. I do imagine, like, part of his package, and this is why you draft the guy 3, is because of the ceiling. And we talk about ceiling, and I know Mac Jones somehow was ranked 85th in the top 100. Mac Jones' ceiling is very, very limited. Just like Kenny Pickett, their ceilings, he should not be on the list. That Kenny Pickett's ceiling's very low. Even Zach Wilson, for example, before he got hurt, I had seen, like, the Jets every once in a while. I follow him on social media. He can make some cool ass plays in practice, like stop on a dime, throw it like this. It's like, Jesus. And it's, part of like what you drafted. I think those three guys in general, I'd put Trevor Lawrence there too, is like they got skill sets that now doesn't mean it's going to work, but I do think Trey Lance just has some shit that we haven't seen. Like that was cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, the good part is if he had airmailed him, it's going to go out of bounds. Now, the bad part would be like if it hit off his helmet and stayed in bounds, it would, like you said, it was not parallel, so the ball would be live, but it was humming and it was really accurate. Like he hit him right in. Was that Jeff Wilson Jr., I think, that he threw it to?
I think it was. I think that it was. It was definitely
he hit him right on the hands, on the move. It was, of all of his ad lib throws, that I'd say that's like a top 5 cool ad lib we've seen in practice of him.
Yeah,
and it just works seamlessly.
That's a great point.
It would have been a 5-yard gain that you would have, like, if you were sitting on your couch in a game, you're like, that was badass.
It's a great point. There's just stuff with him that he's probably going to come up with later that he's not comfortable yet. Yet maybe an NFL game to do, and he hasn't played that much. He's thrown 71 passes, but we got to see a little something today. We got to see.
Even we talked about it after on Saturday night or Friday night, and this is what you like about, like, what ultimately to me good players are, whether it's Jeter making that play against the A's, whether it's you see it with basketball players, Draymond does all the time, like a quarterback's, especially talented physically guys that can move around, like ultimately Tom. Or even Peyton, like they can only do so much. But when you can move around, Roethlisberger, he became a star by doing this, is like kind of your instincts of, and I think it's what gravitates fans toward these type players. Rodgers is probably the best at it, is like kind of feel like a little kid when you're watching them. Like this is what you would do in high school, but you're doing it at the NFL level. It's why Mahomes everyone gravitated toward him, right? It's like, God, how much fun. It's like Brett Favre, but he's under control.
Think about how many times through OTAs and practice we've seen Trey Lance out of the pocket and then make a throw, and we turn and say, yeah, but that's going to be a sack. Well, when Mahomes does it in practice, nobody turns and goes, oh, well, that's going to be a sack, because we've seen him do it in games. Maybe some of this stuff where he's ad-libbing out of the pocket is going to translate to games. You just don't know, but that's part of what makes it fun to watch him this year. Because in 2 years, we might watch him make plays in practice and go, yeah, he would have broken the tackle. He wouldn't have got caught. That's a real game play right there. And I think a lot of them will be. We've seen enough of them, I think, that a lot of them, he is comfortable. And I keep saying it. And the play on Friday night, John, where he slid and he blew your mind, and then he admitted after the game he never slid before. The fact that he's always looking downfield, even when he's out of the pocket, it's a great trait.
Do you feel better about that slide now that you've had a couple days to let it marinate?
I feel better about it after he admitted he had never done it before. That makes me feel a little better. I still think when you're an unnatural slider, I think you have to be just as decisive with your sliding as you have to be with everything else. And you can get popped if you're not decisive with your slide and not totally comfortable with your slide. In some ways, I'd almost rather you not slide than slide awkwardly, because you're really exposed when you slide and you're at the mercy of the defense. And so no, I actually, I guess the answer is no.
But it was a relatively smooth slide. Like it wasn't clunky.
I still think he went down with both legs he went down like this instead of like this. Like you're supposed to slide one leg tucked under, one leg forward. He went down with both legs, which is just kind of falling. It's like he went down the way you jump onto a water slide, where you put both legs down and just whoosh. And I'm just a little concerned because yes, it was good. It was good.
Well, the reality is if he slides and he hesitates a little bit, whether or not like it's a penalty and a guy takes him out and hits him and he gets a concussion, like that still happens, right?
Yeah.
Now you can say that it's still hit or miss in the league in general with that play. It's a tough spot for the defensive players, though I think they're pretty. If he establishes that he's a slider, who was the guy? Was it Kyler? Wasn't there a player? Was it Russell that did a fake slide? Or no, it happened in a college game, right? Oh, it was Kenny Pickett.
It was Kenny Pickett. They changed the rule.
I'm going to slide it. Nope. And he kept going. You're like, fuck you. I pulled up. But the one thing, though, if you establish you're a slider, like if that gets on tape, like he's probably not going to play this week. I think they've already basically admitted he's not playing this week.
I thought he said he's playing weeks 1 and 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's played week 3. And then let's say the first couple regular season games, he slides like a total of 4 or 5 times. Then to me, when you're playing him and I'm Raheem Morris, we're getting ready for him, I'm hammering that home. Guys, when he's down the field, you got to pull up because he's going to slide, and then that saves you a little bit. But when you're a diver, like, guys, he's looking to finish. We're going to finish him. So to me, you just got to keep establishing a couple more slides, then they kind of leave you alone for the most part. I mean, you're still going to get a couple kamikazes. I mean, I think Robert Saleh said after the game, the guy that hit Jalen Hurts said that was an egregious mistake by that guy.
Oh,
like that was embarrassing. Like, we can't
him.
be doing that. Now, the guy did absolutely kill him, and Sirianni started screaming, "What the fuck, man," across the field.
Saleh had no reaction. Sirianni would have felt better if Saleh had chewed out his guy.
But what if you kind of like,
he's all the one on the other side of the field. All gas, no brakes.
I also kind of want to get some juice. Yeah, no gas, no brakes. Coach, brakes went out.
209 on the stream says, it's just a slide. This is awkward. Yeah, I mean, look, not everyone is as detail-oriented as the coaches. We are. We like to be detail-oriented. Every little detail counts. So that's fine. But we break everything down. No detail too small, John.
No gas, no slides.
You think Steve Jobs would say, don't worry about it, on to the next play, it's just a slide?
No.
There was also this. So Peter King in Football Morning in America said, is Trey ready to take it on his shoulder? Or Peter King didn't say this. Kyle Shanahan said this to him. Is Trey ready to take it all on his shoulders? He shouldn't be. He hasn't gone through it enough. I believe in a man as a person. I believe in his talent. I don't think he is going to make or break our season. Just like in 2019 and last year, I didn't think Jimmy was going to make or break our season. But what sucks is when you're learning how to play, you're not there yet. How do you not get worse sometimes when the pressure is on you and you need to go through the growing pains? The first 2 times I read this quote, I didn't realize that is not even a backhanded compliment to Jimmy. That is just an assessment of Jimmy. But I think if we were really going through all the, I agree with him.
You're saying the last comment is more talking about 2019, like there were some growing pains, and then
no, I'm talking about the middle comment where he says, I don't think he's going to make or break the season, just like 2019 and last year. I don't think Jimmy was going to make or break the season, which we all agree. We agree with that. But
it's weird that
he's basically saying
Kyle just agrees. Yeah, I also agree. He's like the 18th best quarterback in the league, guys.
He's basically saying he's replacement level.
Yeah, do you guys want to put a number on it? 18th? I've seen a lot of you put him right around that range. Me too. We got about 18, 19,
I told
20
Sando
range.
21, but Sando had some people that said 17.
I would have gone fringe tier 4, tier 3, but hey, I saw a couple people say tier 2. I was laughing in my desk like, what, these idiots. But you're right. It's rare that like, and I would imagine in the he was just very comfortable with Peter. But you're right. I mean, it's a dig. But it's not a dig. It's reality.
It's a reality.
You don't see coaches talk like that very often.
Again, I'll read the first part.
He's basically just saying Jimmy's a game manager.
I think part of what he's saying is this year it's a totally different quarterback with a totally different skill set. But in many ways, it's the same thing we've done before, where our quarterback has some things he does well and has some other things he doesn't do well. And the good thing is our team is really good. Our whole team, the collective is good. And with Trey, you're going to get some things that Jimmy didn't do. Maybe there'll be some things that Jimmy did well that Trey is still figuring out how to do. He won't be limited by physical limitations at all. It's just going to be about learning how to be an NFL quarterback. And he says it here too. Like, he can't, until he's done it, is he ready to take it on his shoulders? He shouldn't be. He hasn't gone through it enough. So that's part of what this year is about, is having him go through it. And you think the team's good enough that he'll get, things go well, you get to play in the playoffs, and he gets a lot of great experience. But the other thing I'll say is it never rode on Jimmy, but even when you have a quarterback who isn't the primary driver of your team's success, there are still, and you made this point the other day, there are still plenty of moments, plenty of throws, plenty of decisions where the guy has to make a top level play. Like, they're not the 1 seed in 2019 if Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't play the way he played in New Orleans, right, where he had one of the greatest games of his life. So there were so many throws. We could go grab a Jimmy Garoppolo highlight reel, and you could make a highlight reel of any quarterback that's played a lot of games, and they'd have some great throws. So I agree with Kyle, but the fact is that Trey Lance, there's just going to be, it's part of being on a winning team. You're just going to be put in a lot of situations and you're going to have chances to make great plays. And I think when you're on a good team, those are going to be chances to make plays in pressure situations against other good teams on big stages, on Monday nights and Sunday nights. And this is, to use a Silicon Valley word, it's a great incubator for him. He's in it.
This is the onboarding process.
This is onboarding. Yeah, that's right.
I just typed in the box score of that game. 48-46. The Niners went to 11-2. The Saints went to 10-3. Like that was and
the Niners were coming off that loss in Baltimore.
Drew Brees that game went 29-40, 355 touchdowns. Jimmy didn't match him, but 26-35, 349, 4 touchdowns and a pick. It's the best game of his life.
349.
It's the best game of his career.
Yeah.
And it looked the best game of his career. It clearly was the best game of his career. But then just a couple weeks later, with the division on the line, I'm pretty sure he went 18-22, and he was excellent against Seattle as well. And what did the Saints and Seattle have in common? Both were playoff teams. Both were on the road, and you felt the tension in both the games. And somehow the Niners team, Seattle was probably more of a team effort. Jimmy threw 4 touchdowns. Like I see what Kyle's saying about Jimmy, and he's been open about this, right? There was a lot of unknown when Jimmy in 2019, right? He never was a starter in New England, but did get 2 starts. He did get 5 starts for the 49ers at the end of 17. Now the difference is the Niners were terrible. So by the time they're playing those last 5 games, their record speaks for itself. The teams aren't taking them seriously. Remember the Jags, who Jimmy outplayed and they beat them. I mean, they were a 2 or 3 win team at the time. So Jimmy got to play a little under the radar, and then the next year he tears ACL by the 3rd game. But if you remember that year, it was like that first game of the season. Who'd they play?
You talking about 19?
No, in 18. I remember they played the Lions, barely beat them.
Was it what year was the Minnesota game where he had the pick 6 called back by defensive penalty?
I think that was the Lions game.
Oh, that was the Lions game?
Yeah. I think they might have played Minnesota that year, week 1, and they lost. They were 1-1 going to the Chiefs game. And if you remember, the Chiefs were up like 30-0 at halftime. And Jimmy came out and got hurt. Like it might have been just, who knows? Like Jimmy was this work in progress, but he was much more experienced of just being around the league, knowing things. Like Trey is still pretty green, both sides, right? I mean, Jimmy got to sit for years. He got to play a little in New England. Then he got to play for the Niners with no expectations. His onboarding process was fucking long up until 19. Like Trey's, I was thinking about this driving home. Think how fast Trey's life went 0 to 60. He went from being the backup, redshirt at the time, coming from Minnesota at North Dakota State. They win the national championship. Whoever the dude was that is in his name kind of is like that, who was at North Dakota State, gets drafted in the 5th round. He becomes a starter, wins a national championship, has a great year as a redshirt freshman. Easton Stick, yeah. Then all of a sudden, 1 year in as a redshirt freshman, he basically just goes to the NFL because the year gets canceled. He gets drafted 3rd overall. But he went from a tiny program, barely played, to now 2 years later, he's sitting at the podium and like one of the best teams in the league is depending on him to be the quarterback. That's a pretty quick transition. Like, say what you want about Mac Jones. He didn't play much in college, but he had several years at Alabama as the backup with Jalen, with Tua, playing for Nick, then got to play for Nick in, obviously, if you play for North Dakota State, those games, Marty Morningwig once told me this, like, just because you play in the NFL, like if you went to Montana and Montana's playing North Dakota State or Montana State or UC Davis, in that community, it's a really, really big deal. So the pressure you feel as an assistant coach or as a player is the same pressure you would feel if you're the Dallas Cowboys playing the Eagles internally. Like there's no, like, I don't want to ruin this game for my team, but there is just a difference. More people are talking about you externally. It's just way bigger. I think we underestimate just how big, and it's honestly a testament to like how impressive and mature he is at his age to go from that. Because one thing Pop said when Jimmy Ward got injured and he wasn't able to be on the stage in Hufanga, he's like, you think Hufanga's 40 years old. He's an old soul. But the one thing Hufanga is like played at SC. I mean, He comes from fucking has been in the big leagues. USC was down. He's still fucking the best player at USC. Every time he walks in that building, national championships and Heisman trophies, just a little bit different. And just the way they're talked about in one of the biggest cities in America. Like, even when they're shitty, like, it's a big story down there. Like, what the hell is going on with USC football? And this guy coming from a big program in North Dakota, and they're obviously really successful, but being the starting quarterback of the Niners within like 18 months, I respect just getting thrown into the fire, and we'll see if he can handle it. And becomes a stud, which everyone's rooting for him to become. And I think Kyle, as those quotes, clearly believes in him. But it is just, I think sometimes we just overlook how insane this transition is for this player. Like, even Mac, like, how Mac went to kind of replace Brady. Well, yeah, he replaced Tua and played for Nick Saban. Like, if you were going to have a spot in college, like, that's probably the best spot to get you ready, right? Where you're basically playing in the pros, So this is.
And but you also go into battle. Who you go into battle with, quote unquote, also matters, right?
Well, I think ultimately
he rides in with a pretty good team,
100%. And this is where, in 2000, just modern day NFL, you don't get to see this as much. I think it's going to benefit him if he turns out to be a good player. That last year was well needed. That he kind of got the onboarding year, the redshirt year, but he got to dabble a little bit. It kind of played out perfectly. Like, do you think, looking back, it's impossible to know? And he was injured with his finger, but let's just say he was healthy. I wonder if given their situation at corner, do they win 10 games with him? Because it could have been a disaster early on, I mean, we're at practice today, and you see they're still working through, like, everyone on the same page sometimes plays.
Maybe they do, but I certainly don't think they win 11. I don't think they would have been better. They certainly could have been worse.
But if the football god came down, he's like, actually, I know what it looks like. They would have won 8. You'd be like, yeah, I could see that, right?
You might have taken it, but they wouldn't have made the playoffs.
No.
So you wouldn't have. That's the other thing that's different between last year and 2019, right? The standard is not be the 2019 team. Not this year. The 2019 team was the best team in the league. They went 13-3. They were the 1 seed in the NFC. They
also got to fly under the radar a lot coming into the season. most people weren't picking them to be, a 12-13 win team.
That's like true, but immediately they were very clear. They started 8-0 or 9-0, whatever. I'm just saying, like, the standard for him is not, when we go back to that Saints game. Well, if Trey Lance plays that Saints game and they lose and he doesn't throw the way Jimmy, they're not the 1 seed, but they're still a playoff team. This year, they just got to be a playoff team. They don't have to be the 1 seed. So I think that's important. Like, he doesn't have to have that game necessarily if they're winning a bunch of other games and they're not the 1 seed. They just got to be a playoff team this year. And that doesn't, they don't have to win 13 games.
I think what makes Kyle very unique, and he used to take a lot of shit for this, even, around the Jimmy, like, does he think he can win with anybody at quarterback? And you kind of see that quote, like, yeah, I kind of do.
And for a reason.
Why? Because I have. So, yeah, I mean, I think he would tell you, I believe that also because we have a really good team. I don't think he would. If you gave him, like, just, I don't know who's a shitty team in the league, right? You gave him the Bears. He wouldn't go like, yeah, I can win with anybody. He wouldn't say, you need good players at other positions. But I think in his mind, if my team's good and my quarterback does what I ask him to do, we can be solid. I don't necessarily need Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. Now, I also think, like, would you take Patrick Mahomes right now? He would say, of course I would, right?
Right.
Or Josh Allen. Or he might go, yeah, I'd be good with Cousins and we save a little money and get another player. Who knows? Maybe he's got a little more money ball into you than he thinks.
I'd be bold.
Irony is Cousins still cost you $40 million, right? It's not like you get 1 for 20. This isn't baseball where you're like, well, I can get this player and get 3 other guys. No, I mean, the random quarterbacks now cost you 38. So I mean, it's just the going rate. I mean, I think Derek is like 40. I mean, that's just the rate of these guys. Most of the guys in the top 10, Brady, the reason no one can even get mad at Brady for taking a vacation. Remember, guys, I make $27 million. Leave me alone.
That's why there should be so much pressure on the Chargers and the Bills this year. But, well, not the Bills, the Chargers, right? Because Herbert's still cheap.
Yeah, well, it is.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of pressure when your quarterback is cheap. And Trey Lance this is year 2. He's cheap right now. So I think it adds pressure to your team when you're supposed to be good and like, well, we have this quarterback so we can have several championship level windows, but the first window is the one where the quarterback's cheap.
Well, the Chiefs would say, we lost one because we redshirted, a lot like, Lance. But they paid him after his third year. In the 2 years, first year, he won the MVP. We lost a heartbreaker in overtime to the Patriots with Tom Brady, his last Super Bowl. And the second year, we won the Super Bowl. It worked out well on the rookie contract. You got to strike while the iron's hot. You don't want to be the Chargers, be like, first year, Anthony Lynn didn't even like him. It was way too late. We won 7 games. Second year, somehow we missed the playoffs. Third year, a couple things went wrong, went for it.
Added Khalil Mack and J.C. Jackson, but, still building. Paid Mike Williams to come back, too. Don't forget about that. Now, got a deal, but question on the stream from Austin. Are the Niners going to have 8 players in the top 100? Well, let's just focus on number 100, John. Shout out to Kyle Juszczyk. Actually down 3 spots. For what reason, I don't know.
Well, you had some rookies, right? It's like it's like a new influx of a recruiting class. I would imagine Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase, I'm pretty sure,
right.
Slater, the left tackle for the Chargers. All these guys, rookies are making the top 100 and like elite, just it bumps you down, but he didn't beat out Kirk Cousins, which I'm not the biggest Cousins guy. It feels the 99 feels a little low for the guy, doesn't it?
But look, not only is he 99 this year, last year he was not on the list. People hate him.
Do you think Kirk Cousins is dramatically worse than Derek Carr?
Not dramatically, no.
Do you think Derek Carr is 100% better than Kirk Cousins?
I do.
Would you place one at 65 and the other guy at 99?
No.
Now you can argue it's a flawed list, unlike basketball, because how could you even have quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins is so much like the Vikings? Would you rather have Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Ward?
Yeah. Jimmy Ward 96 on the list. CeeDee Lamb 95 had not been on the list before. Justin Tucker 94. We rather have. Justin Tucker's a great player, but
49ers do have. As you said, you watch brick by brick. Mr. Relevant gets a parade down in
Brock Purdy, Coronado Island.
California.
Yep.
And then they have, top 100 Mr. Relevant Kyle Juszczyk, who may or may not be telling people where to line up consistently in his 49er career.
Well, it's actually the clip in this thing is Kittle saying he fixes all our play. He fixes plays for us all the time. Defense isn't in what we expected. Kyle Juszczyk fixes the play. And today, and Kawakami pointed out to me on the sideline today, there was a play where Trey Lance lined up under center and Juszczyk yelled, "No, pistol." And then Trey Lance came out of his under center position and into the pistol. And I pulled up on my phone. I didn't pull it up here, but remember last year there was a play where Ayuk did not go in motion. And
he started screaming at him.
Juice yells, I think he yells like, Brandon! And he starts waving. And to me, that's significant because he might do it this year. And when he does it this year, somebody will say, rightfully, he's helping out the rookie Trey Lance. Well, he did it with Garoppolo, who should have known that Ayuk should have been in motion too. So it's not just going to be a Trey Lance thing. It's a Harvard guy thing.
Well, think about this. There's a running joke that a lot of people with their colleges out west. So I went to the Harvard of the West Coast. I would imagine people like,
I went to the Harvard.
I'm not a Harvard grad. I'm a Harvard of the South. The guy literally went to Harvard.
The real Harvard. Harvard of the West. Did you know Dr. Disrespect went to Cal Poly Pomona? I got fired up for a second. I thought it was San Luis Obispo, but played basketball at Cal Poly Pomona. And he goes by Guy, apparently.
Is that his real name?
It's not his real name, though. Someone will have to fill me in on Dr. Disrespect.
How old do you think Dr. Disrespect is?
He's like it's like 40 or 41, 42, something like that.
Oh, so he's a little older. He's not like a quote unquote young guy.
No, I think he played college basketball. Like maybe his last year I read was like 03, maybe 04, something like that.
Honestly, I would, if you would have said like once someone said last week that he played college basketball, I would have guessed probably even a little higher level than that. I don't know if I would have gone like Pac-10, Pac-12, but if you would have told me like New Mexico or UNLV, just that body type, like he was not small. he looked like a legitimate Division I body type, didn't he?
Yeah, he led them in rebounding a couple games. I looked at his game log.
Now, if you told me that he would tell you that I'm in way better shape, like more jacked now than I was in college, something like I could see that. You got a little more money, a little HGH. He looked pretty jacked.
He looked big. Yep. He looked big. John, I'm here to report I watched some of the Panthers preseason game. And Baker Mayfield he's better than Sam Darnold. He actually looked pretty good, I thought. I watched some of the Browns preseason game. Got to lock in on the Browns a little bit. And they muffed the first punt of the season.
The Bears.
Chiefs. First punt, muff. And two things. As you tweeted when I put that video out, Hightower.
Did they show him on television?
They didn't immediately show him. Here's the other thing about that. What I read was that muffed punt by whoever the guy, his name's like Daz or it was like Daz or Jazz or I think it was Daz. That it makes it more likely that their starting punt returner could be Dante Pettis because he had 2 returns, fair catches, and he had a 25-yard catch on a 4th down play. So Dante Pettis could be the starting punt returner for the Bears.
Which I do wonder if Hightower, who was here with the 49ers, was a proponent of Dante Pettis in terms of the kicking game, which he was good at in college.
Yeah, he was great. He set the record for touchdowns.
Which I always thought was weird. It was like the one thing that everyone agreed on that he kind of did well in college. The Niners never asked him to do.
You think maybe internally he was like, why won't Kyle just use him in the role where I think he should be used? Let me use him in that. But again, the Bears do put him on offense.
But didn't you think it was a little bizarre that he was just great and they never used him?
Especially when it's not like he was your number. It's not like you were protecting him.
But even usually when a guy's sweet, like when it's clear he's going to be awesome on offense, Odell Beckham and Deshaun Jackson, for example, both those guys early on in their career were dynamic punt returners. Why? Because in college, that's what they did. Honey badger. Now, once you become like back-to-back Pro Bowl, it's like, well, we siphon you out of here. But like when you're just the rando, Ray McLeod's going to be returning punts for like 17 straight years. Like that's just kind of what you do. Honestly, if Dante Pettis can just have some moments where it's like, he's actually not bad as a punt returner. Couldn't he just extend his career? Just a couple more years. All of a sudden, it's like, how about Dante Pettis play? Oh, he actually played 9 years in the league.
Yeah.
You just return for 4 years. You don't have to cover kicks. You just return them. But you got to return them. And I remember watching clips of Dante in college. Like, I would not call him a puss by any means. Like, he was breaking some tackles, running around. Kind of have to. Like, it's hard to be
I think 8 touchdowns.
In his career.
Broke the record. Yeah, it was the college record. It was.
I thought he broke Deshaun Jackson's record.
It was D-Jax, Amendola, I think, had like 7 maybe in his career, past him too.
It's a fantastic way to get on the radar of NFL people. Start scoring touchdowns in Power 5 on punts. It's not easy. I mean, even in college, like it's most punt returns in college, unless it's like one of those trick where the guy's laying down. Like if you're going around, guys, it's usually one of the more exciting plays of the weekend, right? Yeah. If it's like 2 Power 5 teams going against each other and you're like you like leap over a guy. I don't even know if Sports Center does like top 10 plays, but
it's on the internet.
Back in the it gets tweeted.
JJ Arcega-Whiteside traded.
That was your guy.
Well. What?
I'm kidding.
I mean, Howie Roseman, no, he does not hang on to. I would imagine, like, I don't know.
Remember he moved to tight end this offseason?
Yeah.
Or like the last year. Maybe it was this year. I think he's a tight end now, technically.
No one's ever called Howie a hoarder, I bet. I bet Howie doesn't keep a lot of like old pairs of pants around. Like he just don't fit anymore. Gots to go.
Yeah, I mean, what do analytic people do? They move, in the baseball world, they move fast. In the NBA, they would too. The problem is you can't move contracts. But in baseball, they siphon through randos. Football, really Belichick is the only other guy that will just get rid of like a 3rd rounder the next year. Most coaches just won't. Now, JJ got drafted years ago, but He just sucks. But he wasn't good in college. He just caught jump balls in college. He did go to the combine. Didn't he run like a 4.40 or 4.38? He ran a fast time.
No. Did he really run that fast?
Yeah. Yeah.
Explains why the owner liked him.
No
so somebody reported today. I mean, this has always kind of been known, but
the JJ wouldn't text Jeffrey Lurie back.
No, that was Carson. The JJ, or I guess that was
Jimmy.
The JJ was Jeffrey Lurie's pick.
What? No, it had been reported like a long time ago. Yeah, it was like when the Doug Peterson was getting fired. There were a lot of people telling on each other. But once you have some success, here's the thing. Those things matter when you suck, right? When you're missing on picks. People think the Eagles go to the playoffs last year. They're good this year. Now, I don't know how good Jalen's going to be, though they think he's improved.
So what? They drafted Devontae Smith.
Yeah, their team is, and they trade for A.J. Brown. Like, that's the other thing. Howie will just aggressively just double down and improve once you miss. And I actually think that's got to be your philosophy when, you miss on a pick. You don't hang on for too long. Now, sometimes it's difficult, right? Like, we talk about McGlinchey a lot. Like, how are the Niners going to find another McGlinchey now that you don't have a first-round pick? Like, what do you do? But if this year you don't think he's the guy, you cannot just give him money. And I'm just using him as an example. Like, a lot of teams find themselves in these predicaments, What do you do? And I think the best teams just do everything humanly possible to pivot. You know who's a great pivoter is Andy. Remember 2 years ago, they went all in for Trent Williams. And even Trent on like a video almost admitted, like, I was going to go, but Kyle came through. And then like the next day they make a trade for Orlando Brown. But it's not like they're like, oh, what are we going to do now? We're going to trade up in the draft. No, it's like they have a couple contingency plans. They just bounce. It's got to be very emotional about got to be like Farhan, but better.
2021. I mean, they drafted. I don't think I saw a snap. Sky Moore didn't have any snaps with Patrick Mahomes, but Mahomes didn't play 14 snaps the other day or something like that. But it's another pivot year for them. From Tyreek to Juju in the slot.
I think they're going to be good. They think they're going to be good. They're excited they can't wait to see Arizona week 1.
Well, there's nothing like a great team who gets kind of disrespected, right? Who gets to play nobody believes in us.
Well, for the first time in his career, I'd say Mahomes got some criticism.
Yeah. And a lot of it came from different things, right? It came from the regular season where even to me, it felt like they were kind of on cruise control. And then definitely the throw at the end of the first half against the Bills.
I did think that that it wasn't it was the Bengals.
The Bengals, yeah, thank you.
I did think that Mahomes, though, remember like the last early on the season, it was weird, and they dialed it up the second half. And they started kicking ass, taking names. Was last year the year they played the Raiders and beat them like a combined 80-20? Or was that 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, throw a dart.
I think last year
that season,
them versus the old Vegas Raiders was not too pretty for the Raiders. Yeah, it had to be.
I don't know why you have such a big smile on your face.
Because 2 years it was Gruden beat them and drove around the stadium and it pissed them off.
So last year was 41-14 and 48-9.
Yeah. That's a pretty wide differential, isn't it?
Yeah. Mahomes was 56 of 75 in those 2 games for 7 touchdowns, no picks. 56 of 75, 7 touchdowns, and no picks. Now 56 divided by 75. I'm going to go ahead and it feels like a high completion percentage, John. 75%. If I did my math right there on 56.
That is an ass kicking.
Right? He was.
Irony is I don't even know if Gruden was around for any of those ass kickings.
Well, not the second one for sure. And the first one even was week 10. I don't think he was still there by week 10.
Yeah, I think he was gonzo. So they didn't even get to beat up on the guy they wanted to beat up on, did they?
Again, 56 of 75. 75% completion percentage.
Feels like he's got some ownage. Just off the top of my head, beside even last year.
Well, we can look up his I think we can look up his splits. Career splits versus the Raiders. I don't know why John enjoys this so much, but
I'm just
when he's such a big fan. Where's my Vegas? Where's my Raiders? Oakland, LA, whatever. 7-1, 65%. By far and away, his most touchdowns he's thrown against anybody, 22. 3 picks.
So he's on about a 7-to-1 ratio there, huh?
He's yeah. Yep.
What's he averaging per pass?
He's thrown for 2,500 yards, which is most against any team.
You've got to feel like he's averaging 16 yards a pass or something. Does it have the
air yards per attempt is 9.6. I'll just tell you, yards per completion would be 25.46 divided by 193 completions. It's only 13 yards per completion.
It's a lot of first downs, guy.
On the stream, Al says, Danny, great choice, 86. If he did, 86 means he's out of sight. A DB's sight. Well, he was out of sight of team drills today because he was working out on the side, which is less than ideal. Says he's fine, just a little banged up from the preseason game. So
he's gonna have to find a way to play banged up.
Yeah. Another great catch by Brandon Ayuk today, by the way. Didn't mention him. Can't go post-practice show without mentioning Brandon Ayuk.
He's not bad.
All right. Good news for everybody out there. Starting on Thursday, begins a stretch of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 5 straight days with NFL football, which is preseason football. So do with that what you will. But we got a game Thursday, we got a game Friday, we got game Saturday, we got game Sunday, and we got a Monday night preseason game.
Oh, Bucket Aikman.
But no Brady. Is it the Bucks? Maybe it's not the Bucks.
Yeah, but he wouldn't play anyway.
Yeah, but he's not even going to be on the sidelines.
Yeah, probably not.
Falcons, Jets. Actually, that's going to be a talking point. Like, what is the result of, as we record this, waiting to find out. Busy week for Dr. Neil Elatrash, John. Casey Halpern on the internet tweets that he has Zach Wilson's surgery tomorrow, and next week he'll do Walker Bueller's elbow surgery. So
has Walker Bueller not played for a while?
He's out for the year, according to reports. So big week for Dr. Neil Elatrash. I don't know if you can get in on an MCL, maybe fit in a John MIDDLEKAUFF, but
if you had to guess what kind of car Dr. Neil drives, what would you guess?
I'm going a Ford, a Mercedes sedan. I would bet. I'd say 90% chance Mercedes sedan, 8% chance. You don't see a lot of these, but like the big 4-door sedan Lexus. So sometimes a doctor likes a big Lexus. 2% chance
with someone like this.
Range Rover. You wouldn't go.
Bentley Range. I mean,
you could go definitely Doc. A good Doc lives a good Porsche. I mean, that's.
I feel like the top dentists often go with Porsches. I feel like a Doc.
Really?
Yeah, my Dr. Mandelaris at least did.
Dr. Mandelaris.
Maybe it was a nice Beamer. I
feel
like this
I can tell you Dr. Haberman wants to be sure that nobody sees that type of vehicle in the doctor's parking spot at his office.
That's true. I wonder if Dr. Neil's thinking like that or,
no.
I wonder what a surgery costs for Dr. Neil, like $500K per?
Yeah, what's the markup on the celebrity? Do you think celebrities go to him just be like, yeah, I got my knee cleaned out, but you don't even play sports? Yeah, same guy that did Walker Bueller's elbow.
Did what's his name retire?
Who?
James Andrews?
I do think James Andrews kind of dialed it back a little bit.
Well, I wonder. I mean, because you said knee. I was like, maybe this guy's the knee guy, but I was like, Dr. James Andrews did knees and he did elbows. Like this guy might be taking his real estate. I thought Dr. James Andrews was a little older too. So maybe
he is. Dr. James Andrews, 79 years old.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. James Andrews. We sure he can even see straight anymore? I mean, it was time. Like,
I bet he's got good vision, steady hands.
James Andrews had the market cornered. Someone else was going to get that spot and profit heavily, and it feels like Dr. Neil slid into that thing.
Dr. Neal has been do you think Dr. James Andrews like hands over the mantle?
I don't know. It's like, it just goes out to like 10 doctors. Like, who wants my black book?
yeah. Just the agents.
Well, it's basically all the agents and all the GMs in all the major sports. Like, these are their numbers. They all contact me. Do you want it or not? What can he charge for that?
Well, I mean, I guess you could give discounts to do famous people, so then your name's out there.
But it's like Zach Wilson is not. It wasn't like Zach Wilson's idea, right? This is who you send them to, right? You just went to Dr. James Andrews. Now it feels like you're just going to Dr. Neal.
Yeah.
I don't know if his name's going to pop. It was just Dr. James Andrews. It was very easy to say. Dr. Neal.
Neil Elatrash. But the name just really, if you say his name, it feels like you're an insider because you don't just read that name. You have to have heard that name, seen that name. Yeah. So in that way, it's kind of unique.
Dr. James Andrews. Hopefully he's doing well in retirement.
Yeah. A lot of careers under that knife.
Hell yeah. Saved a lot of them. Probably ruined a couple too, but we don't talk about the bad ones.
Pretty good track record.
They're great.
I guess you would never do stuff at a discount. These people are too valuable to care about doing deals at discounts.
Okay, no, I don't feel anyone in the medical field does anything on a discount.
Dr. Neal will have a bust in Canton. I mean, I wonder how many Hall of Famers he's cut. Maybe it's not crazy.
Probably a lot.
All right. On that note, thanks for hanging with us, everybody. More shows coming up this week, but don't forget we will be live on Saturday night at some point, TBD, during or after Niners Vikings. See how good the game is.